All right, sorry, we're back. Sorry about that. I've been disconnected. So, anyways, I was saying that there are basically just four levels to the money game. It's really just a game, and once you understand this game, you're going to be able to acquire skills. You're going to be able to perform and earn money. You're going to be able to save money, and you're going to be able to invest. So, let's take a closer look at this at these four levels and figure out like how we can make progress at these four levels. So level number one is skill. What is a skill? This is very, very important to understand, because if you don't understand what a skill is, then you're not going to be able to identify the skills that you should learn and practice. And so a skill basically is let's say the ability to do something to produce a result. Okay. Um, so you have to do something. A skill is not knowledge. It's not information on Wikipedia. It's not a PowerPoint presentation. It's not a YouTube video. Like, you have to be able to do something, and you have to produce a result. And of course, by result, I mean a result that is wanted by a client. So if you have the skill, I don't know, like you can cook, but you're cooking a meal for yourself, but nobody, wants to pay you for that meal. Well, that's not a skill. Well, it's a skill, but it's privately useful. It's not useful to other people. It's useful to you. You have to eat, but that's not a skill. And so examples of skills could be, you are a good copywriter, copywriting, you're good at search engine optimization, um, you're good at selling, you're good at public speaking, you're good at coordination. So for example, I could hire you to coordinate my Zoom sessions, talk to people, answer the phone, etc. Like, you can be a secretary and have a lot of administrative skills or computer skills. So tons of computer skills, um, so many software programs. So any software programs that you know how to use, including online software programs like MailerLite, well, that's a skill. Okay. You learn how to use MailerLite, MailChimp, which is more complicated. You learn how to create, set up, and manage a YouTube account. That's a skill. So these are, there are so many skills out there, and you just have to identify the skill that you're interested in, right? So it has to be aligned with your interests. You cannot say, "Oh, I'm going to learn computer programming," when you're not really interested in computers or programming. So you have to be honest. But I think that's not a problem. The problem, usually people, when you can learn so many skills, and if you're, if it piques your interest, then you can go further and you know deepen your skill. Okay. So that's the what a skill is. So you got to focus. So if I ask you, for example, last week, like in the last 7 days, did you learn a new skill? And this is a very tough question. I don't mean to stress you, but you got to ask yourself that question, because if you're at level one, um, that's what you got to do. um, and there are so many skills that you can learn. If you want to see like an exhaustive list of all the skills that you can learn, I really recommend the book What Color Is Your Parachute. It's a classic by Richard Bowles, and in that book, like, he's listing like all the skills that a human being can possibly learn. So you can look through the skills, and you can identify the skills that you want to learn. But this is what young people should do. They should not spend time on TikTok and Facebook and gossiping and smartphones. Like, no, just pick a skill and learn, and you're going to be more and more valuable. I remember in the 1990s, when I was a university dropout, I became what I call a serial skiller. I would learn, not a killer. I didn't kill anybody, not yet. I became a serial skiller, and I would learn like one computer skill after another, and that's how I was hired by IBM and American Express and a lot of Fortune 500 companies, even though I didn't have a university degree. those employers, like those are really top employers, like Fortune 500. They don't care about the fact I don't have a, a university diploma. I got the skills. I was tested for those skills, like translation and desktop publishing and design. They tested me, and I always had a very high score, so I can actually do those computer tasks, and that's how I built my career in the 1990s as a marketing communications specialist. So, that's why I tell people, young people today, sure, if you're insecure or whatever, you need to have a university degree. Sure, if your parents are paying for it, sure, get a university degree. But I guarantee you, it's not your diploma usually that's going to get you a job. Let me repeat that. It's not your diploma that's going to get you a job. It's your skills. Okay. So skills will always trump a diploma, because a diploma, what is it? A diploma or certificate just says that, okay, you suffered for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You suffered, you did some tests, and you have some knowledge in your head. 95% of the knowledge that you have, that you learned, you forgot. Everybody knows that, right? So a diploma is not as powerful as a skill. Okay, so that's what a skill is. Now let's move on to the second level of the game, assuming that you've acquired the right skills and you're actually able to produce results for your clients. Let's talk at the next level, which is challenging for a lot of people who have the skills but they're not able to make money. Okay, this is the second level, and I'm going to teach you how you can easily make money assuming that you have the skills. um, Hold on, I'm just going to share this YouTube with a friend of mine. So the second level is in many ways a lot of fun, because this is where you're actually going to perform. This is where you're making money. That the mistake that so many people here are making, and I've seen my former digital marketing students make that mistake. I see, job seekers making that mistake. They focus on the cover letter. They want their cover letter to be perfect. They want their resume to be perfect. Like they want their LinkedIn profile to be perfect, and they read tons of books on how to knock them dead at a job interview, how to write the perfect cover letter, how to write the perfect resume. Yeah, sure, those documents are important, but you know what? Ultimately, there's just one thing. I want you to remember that there's just one thing that the employer wants to know. Let me just put it down here. One thing, okay, the employer or the recruiter wants to know. This one piece of information is critical. If you give them this information, if you demonstrate, like in a Zoom session or in person, or on the phone. But on the phone it's kind of hard, but in a Zoom session they see your face, they see the way you express yourself, very much like what I'm doing right now. People can see me. Hey, is Peter a good teacher? Wow, yeah, you can watch my live stream, you can see what I sound like, you can see my content. Right? Are you going to hire me, yes or no? So you got to be that blunt when you go into the marketplace. Like, no bullshit, man. Like, just tell people what you can do. So what is the one thing that the employer or the client, if you're a freelancer, what is the one thing they want to know? It's very simple. Can you do the job? Yes or no? So how are you going to answer that question? Your resume cannot answer that question. Your resume is talking about what you did in the past for other employers. Your cover letter written by ChatGPT, of course, it doesn't answer that question. Can you do the job? It's very simple. Show me, demonstrate that you can do the job. So that's the one thing, the one question that you have to answer. If you can answer that question, friends, I guarantee you, you will get the job. It makes sense. That's why, like, Elon Musk, for example, doesn't care about your education. When you apply for a job at Tesla, they give you a test. If you can perform the test, that's it, man. They sign the employment contract. You're hired on the spot. Okay, that's it. If you can do the job, you get the job. I mean, it makes sense, right? But people today, like they are brainwashed by all these books and all these authors and coaches. Oh, I'm gonna teach you how to answer questions at a job interview. Well, how is that gonna help? Like even headhunters and recruiters, they don't know what they're doing. But the serious employers who have serious money for you, who have a paycheck for you waiting, they're just asking you one question. This is the only question that matters in any job interview. Can you do the job? Okay. Or maybe a better question is, um, can you prove to me that you can do the job? Okay. That's the question that you have to obsess about and answer. If you can answer that question, friends, I guarantee you're going to be able to turn your skills into hard, cold cash. I've done that in the 1990s, like 26 years ago. I understood that. But today, I feel that so many people, especially young people, they're kind of hiding behind a cover letter. They're so insecure. They're hiding behind a resume. They're hiring somebody and paying that resume writer for $500 to write a resume. The resume, it's important. It's technicality. It's paperwork. The cover letter is paperwork, right? But it's not answering the real question. The real question is, can you prove to me, the employer, that you can actually do the job? Or can you demonstrate that you can do the job? Because a job is a job. When you're hired for a job, you're not gonna write cover letters and and write resumes when you have a job. No, you're hired for a job. Whether you're a dentist, whether you're a massage therapist, whether you're a copywriter, can you do the job? So that's why I say that the second level, in many ways, it's so simple. If you have the skills, okay, you just have to perform. Perform means that you execute according to a form. Like a lot of karate masters or practitioners, you just execute according to a form, and then you get the job. So don't focus too much on promotion, although of course you have to promote yourself. You have to have a blog, you have to have a LinkedIn profile. You gotta look legit. And you gotta promote yourself. You have to have a website. Like if you don't have a website, dude, you're not serious. Like if you're a serious professional, you have a website, or at the very least, you have a LinkedIn profile, and write something on your profile. Like tell people on your profile what you're able to do, so that even if you have a full-time job right now, you can get freelance contracts. But you got to be visible. But again, visibility is just the let's say the admission ticket. You got to be visible, right? You got to be audible. But everyone can be visible. Everyone can promote themselves. Anyone can be heard on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. That's easy. The tough question you got to answer is, can you prove? Can you prove beyond the shadow of a doubt? Now, this reminds me because I used to work for law firms and the Ministry of Justice, and I don't know why, but I had the attorney friends at the Ministry of Justice in 1993. I don't know why, but they sat me down and they said, Pete, okay, we're gonna teach you something about how to protect yourself. I don't know why they thought that I was gonna become a criminal, but they said, okay, first of all, Peter, um, what is it? Okay, first of all, the judge, the attorney, the jury, whatever, they're gonna ask you the question, did you know about it? Okay, and let's say they're talking about the crime. Okay, that's the first question they're gonna ask you, and I have to say, no, no, I didn't know about it. Okay, the hold on, what is it? Oh yeah, okay. So and then the the opposite attorney is going to say, yes, you know about it. Don't lie to us. You know about it. You know about the crime. And then my second line of defense would say, okay, maybe I knew about it, but I didn't do it. Okay, that's the second line of defense. And then the opposing attorney might say, no, 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 you knew about it, and you did it. Okay, so maybe that's how they're gonna accuse me. You did it. And so the last line of defense, and this is what I found really funny, is that I would say to the judge, uh, yeah, you know, maybe I knew about it. Maybe I did it, the crime, but you can't prove it. Okay, so I found it really funny. So you have three lines of defense. I didn't know about it. I didn't do it. And if you did it, well, you can tell them, well, good luck trying to prove that I did the crime. So this applies to when you're looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, it's very simple. They don't care about your cover letter because, which is funny, like, what are you trying to cover, right? Or your resume. Yeah, everyone has a fancy resume. Like 80% of everybody's resume is kind of like a work of fiction. It looks so nice. Everybody looks perfect on a resume. But dude, the question you got to answer is, can you prove it? Can you prove, can you prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can actually do it? That's the thing that so many people don't understand. Unless and until you can prove that you can do the job, you don't have a case. You can be networking with tons of headhunters and placement agencies. You can finesse your way. You can wine and dine a lot of employers. But dude, if you can't prove it, it's game over. Okay. So how do you prove that you can do the job? Well, you go back to level one. When you're practicing and you're learning new skills, you got to produce results. You can't lie about this. So at level one, it's just not just practicing. You have to actually produce results. And when you have those results, you can show those results to future employers. And when they see those results, that's the proof they're going to hire you. Like if I was to apply, I used to make like $80 an hour as a teacher. I can show up at McGill University, Concordia, UDM. I speak French, and I can show, look, I have those 7 college courses that I created that I used to teach. I have the Zoom recordings to show it. I have the pictures of the classrooms at Taft College. I have testimonials from my students, but testimonials, that's worth nothing. I have the course material, the PowerPoint slides, I have the assignments, the group exercises, the projects. I have everything. I have like the proof, that I can actually develop a college level course in 15 weeks, 45 hours. I have the teaching contract from Taft College, from the English Montreal School Board, from EPAC d'Affaires, from so many, I have the PowerPoint slides. I used to teach at McGill University. I have the results. So if I show up and I wanted to teach, one of the 7 courses, they're gonna hire me because I have the proof. I don't really need a cover letter. Really don't need a resume. So my point to you is that if you did level one correctly and you worked hard on practicing a skill, not watching some YouTube videos by bozos out there. There are so many bozos on YouTube. They don't know what they're talking about. People are just wasting their time on YouTube, on TikTok. Why are they just wasting time watching YouTube videos? You're not learning a new skill. Okay, you got to watch YouTube videos by people who are teaching you a skill. TikTok is just too short. They don't have time to teach you. But on YouTube, you can find tons of people who teach you how to use like a software program. They teach you, I don't know, how to invest your money, how to use Excel. You can learn so much from YouTube University, and you can produce results, right? And once you have those results, that's the proof. And if you can prove that you can do the job, then you're going to make money. So that's level two. Level two is really, really that simple. Now, I want to tell you that story of one of the probably the best professor I ever had at McGill University. So I'm just going to create a new thing here. And she was known as a turnaround CEO, like a Jewish woman. And what she did was one day she was hiring for a marketing position. I'm just going to put her name, Sharon Galeen. She was so impressive that I looked at um, the McGill list of courses, and I registered for every course that she gave, and I took 3 courses with her. And she was known as a turnaround CEO. And so one day she had a marketing job, and this guy shows up, and he happens to be a Vietnamese guy. And in the middle of the job interview, he says, "Mrs. Galeen, you don't know me, you don't know what I'm capable of, but you know what? Let me make you a proposal. I'll work for you for 1 week for free. Okay, I'll do whatever you need in terms of marketing. I'll work 1 week as a volunteer for free. Okay, And then you can see what I can do. And so obviously he's talking about the proof, right? He wants to prove that he's a valuable contributor. And he says, after 1 week of working for free for you, you can decide to hire me or not. If you decide not to hire me, no problem. I walk away. You don't have to pay me 1 cent. I mean, can you imagine the confidence of this guy who happens to be Vietnamese, but it's not me, okay? And he said, 1 week, I'll work for you for free. This guy was so confident about his skills that, you know what? Professor Galeen hired him on the spot. I tell young people, that's what you got to do. You got to have that level of conviction. Please do not send your resume to 100 companies. That shows a lack of conviction. Take your resume, you know, and bring it to one employer and harass that client, well, no, not harass, but stalk that employer, that recruiter, and get a meeting. And when you get the meeting, with the target employer, when you get the meeting, demonstrate what you can do, and then they're gonna hire you. Because the good thing about recruiters, unless they have political motivations, I don't know, maybe a recruiter has a nephew and they post a job, but they don't really want to hire people. Ultimately they're going to give it to the nephew. Who knows? But that's like a small, tiny percentage. Most recruiters, they just want to see you demonstrate your skill. Like if you're a salesperson, well, you got to demonstrate your skill. You cannot demonstrate your skill as a salesperson through a cover letter or resume. You got to meet the person. They need to hear your voice. They need to see your face. Okay. So you get the meeting first, and then you demonstrate through your personality, your handshake, your conversation, your question. You demonstrate that you're super smart. You can actually do the skill. You have the skills that they need in you, and then they're going to hire you. It's really that simple. But most people, you know what? They take some kind of uh, program like certification. Google gives a lot of certification for free. They even pay money. They pay money to a college or university. They spend 3 years at university, and during those 3 years, it doesn't occur to them that employers pay for skills. Employers do not pay for diploma. Okay, like that's the old economy. You got to forget about that. Now, I'm not saying it applies across the board. Like, there's some uh areas, professions, like, if you want to become a, I don't know, a doctor, a dentist, you want to become an engineer, yeah, you need to have the proper certification. You cannot improvise and become an engineer by learning in your garage, no matter how good you are. In most cases, you need an engineering degree. If you want to teach mathematics in high school, well, you need a master's in mathematics. But nowadays, like, there are so many jobs where you don't need to have a diploma. You can learn a skill like in less than 2 weeks by watching YouTube videos, and you learn a micro skill, and you implement, you practice, and then you offer your skill and you make money. It's really that simple. You got to be that nimble. The days where, young people, I have a nephew who's 18. I'm going to teach him how to make money. Um, he's 18. He's about to choose a university program. The days where, you enroll in a 3 year or 4 year university program and you suffer for 4 years and then you graduate. Hey, I have a diploma. It's even framed. Hire me. Those days are over. Like nowadays, like you gotta have some skills. I swear to you, friends. I swear to you. I had a calligraphy student, and he had a master's degree in engineering from Concordia University. And you know what? You know where he's working? Pizza Hut. He's working at Pizza Hut. And this guy has a master's degree, 4 years from Concordia. That's ridiculous. Young people and their parents who are paying tuition fees, they're wasting tens of thousands of dollars. But that's nothing. I mean, you can make money again. They're wasting 4 years of their youth, which they're never going to get back, to get some stupid diploma, and they don't have any skill. That's why, like, we often see in the news, oh, university graduates, they can't find a job. Well, obviously they can't find a job because they have no skills. you know Employers have tons of jobs, but they have no skills. That's why, like, friends, please share this video with all the parents out there. I feel that so many parents are misled. They just want to send their kids to university. Okay, I did my job. I'm paying for my kids' university. I'm a good parent. No, you're not a good parent. Sorry. If you want to be a good parent, you would teach your kids how to acquire skills on their own. Go on YouTube, acquire skills, and make money from your skill. Unfortunately, parents are well-meaning, but they just don't know how the economy works today. It's not about diploma. It's not the baby boomers and the Gen Xers. It's not the economy is different from the economy that you grew up in. Today, it's all about skills. If you don't have skills, you're not gonna make money. It's really that simple. So, anyways, first level, you gotta learn skills. Okay. Second level, you have to demonstrate your skill so that you can make money. I think those are the two levels where most people are stuck. Like a lot of people, I know it sounds surprising, but a lot of people have a fancy university degree, including a management degree or an MBA or an engineering degree, like my friend who has a master's degree, but they have a nice piece of paper, vellum. I have my McGill diploma. It looks very nice. Women who come to my place, they're very impressed. But it means nothing. It means nothing. The piece of paper just says that at McGill University, this is really funny. My McGill diploma, it says that from 1996. I mean, it doesn't say that on the degree, but basically it says that they tortured me for 3 years and I had to pay $17,000. I look at it and I'm laughing now, but I wasn't laughing at the time. I've always been a very good student, but even though I'm a very good student, I felt like they were torturing me. I mean, think about it. University is a business, right? University is the only business in the world where they're torturing their customers and they're charging the customers for. I paid like $17,000 for my McGill education. This is ridiculous. Actually, it cost me more than $17,000 because I had a full-time job at the time that paid 40K a year. So I had to quit my daytime job because the BCom program is a daytime program. So actually, I lost $80,000 because I couldn't work anymore because I cannot take evening courses. It's a daytime program. So in total, I would say that I lost like almost like 100. What is it? 80K, 70, almost like 100,000. So what is it? That's wow, that's $97,000. So I lost that amount of money. Now, the good thing is that I have a McGill degree, so I can basically teach any business topics, human resources, talent relationships, operations, sales, marketing. So it's not too bad because eventually I became a teacher. But most of the university diplomas is worth nothing. And how do I know that? Because there are so many university graduates today, they're not getting jobs. In fact, this year is the first year where high school graduates are, there's less unemployment among high school graduates than among university graduates. Meaning what? Meaning that if you're good with your hands, you're going to make money. If you have a fancy diploma, sorry, you don't have any practical skills, you're not going to make money. So, what I'm talking about, guys, this is a generational problem. There are so many kids, freshly out of university, they're not going to have a job. They're not going to have a life. You don't have money. You can't have a girlfriend. You can't have a car. You can't have anything, right? So they're about to wake up. And guess what? It's getting worse because AI is going to take over all the entry level jobs. And, you know, university graduates who don't have experience, they're not going to get their first job in a corporation. So that's why, like, what I'm launching now on Facebook and everywhere, I teach people to master a money game. They have to learn, otherwise you're not going to survive. And the game is fairly simple. You just have to master a skill, and then you have to demonstrate, prove that you have that skill. And if you can prove to an employer or several freelance clients that you have that skills, those skills, well, you're going to get a job. After that, it gets easier. After that, um hold on. After that, like level 3 and level 4 tend to get easier. It's like you're on top of a mountain, right? Because now you have the money. So let me just erase this. So imagine, let's assume that you are a serious person. You're not wasting time on YouTube or Facebook and TikTok. You acquire the skills and you're making money. So let's assume that you're at this level. And most people, the 1 billion people on LinkedIn, they're at 1 billion users on LinkedIn. They're at that level. They're at level 2. They're making money. Like usually, on LinkedIn, you can see their job title. So they're making money. Now, making money doesn't mean that they're saving money. Okay, like in the United States, I think the stats show that more than half of Americans don't even have $400 in their bank account. I might be off, but this is directionally right. Like 50% of Americans do not have $400 in their bank account for some kind of emergency. It means that they live, paycheck to paycheck. If they have an emergency, medical, whatever, uh, and they can't cover it, that's it, man. They're cooked. 50% of Americans. This is the richest country in the world. So the fact that you're making money, here at level 2, doesn't mean that you know how to save money. And of course, the reason why people, um, one of the main reasons why people cannot save money is that they don't have self-control. Like they see stuff online. Oh, I want this, I want that, and because of this wonderful and evil invention called the credit card, people spend money they don't have. Okay, they spend money they don't have, and they put it on the credit card. And so they're getting into debt, and they can't save money. So this is the level where you have to really be good with self-management. You have to learn uh, how to do your budgeting. You got to know where your money is going, and you have to know, you have to control yourself. Do you really need that? Do you really need that? Really? And if you don't have the money, like Kevin O'Leary, one of the Shark Tank investors, says, if you don't have the money, don't buy it. Warren Buffett says the same thing. If you don't have the money, don't buy it. Don't buy it on credit. Nowadays they have like programs where, like, even on Amazon, you have program where, hey, you don't have the money now, no problem, you can pay in 3 installments. No, don't go for that. If you don't have the money, go back to level 1, pick up the skills, make more money, and then you can spend. Don't go for those installments. It doesn't make sense. Debt is not a good thing for consumers. It might be a good thing for businesses because it gives you leverage, but debt is usually not a good thing for consumers. If you don't have the money, don't spend. So learn to save your money. And the trick I want to give people, and this is an analogy that's going to make it clear what exactly is money. The trick is that think of money as blood. Okay, every time that you spend money, like even if you spend like $10, even if you spend like $30, think that your blood is coming out. In other words, you're bleeding, meaning that you're getting weaker. Okay, so money is blood. Money is blood. So don't give away your blood. Don't give away your blood, because you're gonna get weaker. And what does it mean when you get weaker? It means that you're not gonna be able to learn skills as quickly. You're not gonna be able to make money because you're getting weaker. So think of money as blood. A lot of people, especially women, I don't want to criticize women, but they don't take they don't take money seriously. Like money, like you go on the street and you ask somebody for 50 cents, they're not going to give you 50 cents. So it's not easy to make money. So if you're able to make money, congratulations, you are at level 2. Now your challenge, your mission, impossible, it's not impossible, but your mission, save your money. Save your money. Don't spend money. This is the easiest level of the video game, because this is a level where you don't have to do anything. Just don't pull out your credit card. But when you go out, I know it sounds ridiculous, but when you go out, like, leave your credit card at home. Then you cannot spend money. Like, you don't have the credit card. Do whatever you have to do to succeed at level 3. Why? Because if you don't save your money at level 3, you don't have money, to invest, then you cannot proceed to level 4. Okay, level 4 is elite level. This is level where me and some of my friends, we're learning to invest. And I'll talk later on about investing in a broader sense. I don't just mean investing in Bitcoin or real estate, or investing in government bonds, or long-term certificates, or cryptocurrency, or I don't know, commodities and Bitcoin calls and options. That is the traditional definition of investing. Here I talk about investing in the sense of obsessing about returns. So return on your time, return on every dollar that you're spending. Most of the purchases I'm making on Temu, which is a Chinese platforms like Alibaba and AliExpress, I will make money from those investments. I call them investment because if I buy a $6 fountain pens and I resell it for $20, well, the markup is pretty good, right? It's more than three times. So I'm getting a return on the money that I spent. That's what I mean by investing. So investing, it doesn't mean that you got to have like, thousands of dollars and you're using Wealthsimple or Robinhood to buy stock. You can do that, of course, but you can learn investing even if you don't have a lot of money saved. If you have, let's say, $30, well, you can purchase my resellable ebooks for $30 and you can turn around and you can make money from my resellable ebooks. That's an investment. Okay, and you're making money right away. You don't have to wait for Bitcoin returns. Although I know I'm a Bitcoin investor, I know that it's going to grow. You can't really lose when you invest in Bitcoin, which surprisingly I learned yesterday that it's considered a digital hard asset. So it's pretty good. But for people who don't have money to invest, and that's about 50% of Americans who don't have an investment in the stock market, still you can learn to be a good investor. You can learn to be a good investor because if you just save your money, money depreciates because of inflation, because they keep printing money all the time. So if you keep your money, well, your purchasing power is going to go down over time. So you don't want to keep your money in cash. Uh, who is it that said that? I think Ray Dalio was saying that cash is trash. Well, cash is not really trash. Come on, you know, cash is not really trash, but cash is depreciating all the time. So what you want to do is you want to convert your savings, your money, into capital, and that's what investing is all about. So let me just mention briefly what investing is all about. And like I said, investing is really, it's almost like a mindset. You don't need to have like thousands of dollars or even hundreds of dollars. Investing, very simply put, is when you convert, hold on, when you convert money into capital. Now, for people who are serious about investing, about business, about capitalism, I cannot recommend enough the book, The Mystery of Capital. And if you read that very small book, it's going to take you maximum an hour or 2 hours to read it, by Hernando de Soto. You're going to understand exactly what capitalism and what uh, capital really is, and you understand exactly what capitalism is all about. And by the way, did you notice that nobody talks about laborism? Because when you're an employee, right, you offer your labor. Well, you're never going to get rich offering your labor because we don't live under a system called laborism, like Karl Marx, fancy idealist ideas, but Karl Marx is too idealistic. You got to live in the real world, and we live in a capitalistic world. We don't even live in cashism, right, or moneyism. No, it's not about having cash, it's not about having money, it's about having capital. And unless and until you read The Mystery of Capital, I'm probably gonna do a live stream explaining that brilliant book. um, unless you read The Mystery of Capital, you don't understand what capital is. You don't understand capitalism. Like, even investors don't understand capitalism. Now, it doesn't mean they cannot get a return. That's not what I'm saying. But I think that if you read the book, it's going to be a very good investment. You know what capitalism is, and you're going to get out of a job. You're going to stop freelancing, because that's not capitalism. Capitalism means that you've got to have capital. What do you do with that capital? Well, you try to grow it, right? And then you grow your capital, meaning that your money is working for you. The money that you have in your bank account is not working for you. It's not capital. The only way that your hard-earned money, the only way it's going to work for you is if you convert into capital, and then your capital, if you place them correctly, it's going to grow. Now, obviously, at the beginning, I think most investors will make mistakes. But the idea, when you learn the investment game, it's like any game, any sport, tennis or whatever. You're gonna make a mistake. You're gonna be crappy at the beginning, but hopefully the mistakes that you make in investing are gonna be small. Okay, so you make small mistakes, and you have to expect that. Okay, you make small mistakes, but you make them as fast as possible, and you're learning big lessons. Okay, we all go through that. I remember the first time I went into investing, I think in 2022. I invested in Zoom at the peak. I'm losing so much money in Zoom. But hey, I learned my lesson. Nowadays, when I invest, I gotta understand what I'm getting into. SpaceX, no thanks. I read their prospectus, 400 pages, no thanks. But you gotta understand what you're investing into, and you gotta study. I read books by Warren Buffett and people like that. You gotta understand how to read a balance sheet. You have to understand how a company makes money. It's really not hard. Once you pick up a book, just one book, I'm going to tell you which book, you learn how a company operates, and you're going to be able to become what they call a fundamental investor. Okay, you really understand how business works, their operating margins, how they make money, their moat. You really understand how business works, and therefore you can pick good good companies to invest in. So the book I want to recommend to you, very much like The Mystery of Capital, this is required reading. Okay, I speak like a professor because I used to be a professor, but this is required reading. If you don't read this book, that's fine, dude. I'm not going to judge you, but this book is just what, $20. You can even read it for free in a local library. It's what is it? The Art of Interpreting Financial Statements by Mary Buffett. Mary Buffett used to be the wife of one of the sons of Warren Buffett. So, she had access to Warren Buffett. And this book is absolutely brilliant because it shows, it goes through every line of the balance sheet and the income statement, and it explains to you exactly what the line means and how it's related to Warren Buffett and his investment philosophy. So it's really, really a brilliant book. And it's not like the other financial books where they talk about high level financial investment principles like asset allocation and all that stuff. This is getting down to the granular level where, for example, Mary is going to explain to the sales and general administration costs. What is the COG, the cost of goods sold, what is the top line revenue. Like, after you read that book, trust me, you will be able to read a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, and the income statement. And so when you read those financial statements from a company, whether it's a private company or a public company, you understand what the company is doing, and you can decide to invest or not to invest. Like, it's like having X-ray. There's no way that a doctor can figure out what's wrong with you with your bones unless they do an X-ray. Same thing with a dentist, right? So when you read this book, it's very simple book. Mary uses very simple language. You will have like X-ray vision. You will be able to see inside a company, how they make money, and whether you should invest. This is really the best book that I found, and I've read like over 1,000 books. Not 1,000 financial books. Like, I read everything nonfiction. Uh, that's why I don't have a social life, by the way. I've read like over 1,000 books, and trust me, guys, this is the book that you want to read. And if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, please buy this book. I think I'm gonna. I will buy this book for my 10 nieces and nephews. They need to understand how to read a financial statement, because to me, if you don't know how to read a financial statement by a private or public company, you're illiterate. You're illiterate. No, so you don't have to be illiterate to be illiterate, financially illiterate. Okay, financial. To be financially illiterate, it's like you don't understand how companies work. You don't understand how companies work, and therefore you cannot invest. Guys, there is no way you can be a good investor unless you understand financial literacy. Like, I have two brothers, okay? They're super smart. The one is his performance is off the charts. He should have been a hedge fund manager. The other retired at age 42. They understand business because they can read the financial statements. If you cannot read a financial statement by a private or public company, you cannot be a good investor. That's it. It's really that simple. So, but the good news is that it's going to take you 2 or 3 hours to read that book, and you're going to become a good investor. Now, speaking of books, I have to go back here and tell you that in a future live stream, for each of these 4 levels, I'm going to recommend like many books on how you can learn new skills, because it's not just about learning a skill. You have to learn a skill really fast. That's really what true intelligence is. Somebody like Elon Musk, for example, he didn't know anything about aerospace, about electric vehicles, but the guy just started reading books. A reporter asked Elon Musk, how come you built SpaceX? You don't know anything about aerospace. And he says, Elon says, well, I just spoke to smart people and I read a lot of books. So I'm going to recommend a lot of books so that you can, acquire new skills, and you can practice those skills. I'm going to teach you about memorization, how you can practice, what they call deliberate practice sessions. Let me just put it there here. Um, to acquire a skill is not just watching a YouTube video or even listening to someone teach you. You actually have to engage in what they call deliberate practice sessions. Very much like, when I used to play tennis, I have to practice against the wall. You hit the ball against the wall and then you play different opponents and you improve. But you have to design your practice session. It has to be deliberate in a sense that it's going to be well designed. Okay, like let's say you want to learn copywriting. Okay, what is the first step? What is the second step? What is the actual result that you want? So your practice sessions have to be very well designed, in the same way that Bruce Lee, for example, when he practiced his Jeet Kune Do kung fu, like he had specific sessions, right? Even when he was charging $2,000 to Hollywood celebrities, $2,000 an hour, that's pretty good, sweet, right? He had to design a practice session. It's not like he's gonna um, you know uh, get onto the dojo and start sparring with his students. No, like you got a series. You got to design the practice session so that you can go from in karate and martial arts. You can go from white belt and then you go to yellow belt and then you go to pink. No, sorry, there's no pink. I think you go to green belt and then you get to, what is it? I think it's blue belt. Sorry, and then the is brown belt, and then finally you have black belt. So in any skill, there are gradations, and you have to know where you are. So a skill is not a binary thing where, hey, I have the skill or I don't have the skill. Yeah, ultimately, that's the big view. You have the skill or you don't have the skill. But for people who have a skill, where are you? Are you black, white belt? Are you yellow? Are you green? Are you blue? Are you brown? So the interesting thing is that within a phase, and this is the first phase, right? You have different gradations. And it's okay if you're yellow. It's okay if you're green. If you're green, you can find someone who's blue, and the blue person can teach the green person. The brown person can teach the blue person. Just so you don't always need like a black belt, because sometimes the black belt master is too advanced for the white belt guy. Okay, so if you're white belt, just find someone who's yellow. If you're yellow, find someone who's green. And I'm gonna create. This is the good news. I'm gonna create a skills exchange network where you can find people like here who are a little bit more advanced than you, and they can teach you a skill. So the great thing about the skills exchange network is that you don't have to pay anything. I think I'm going to charge only like $30 per year just to filter out the people who are not serious, because come on, if you can't even spend $30 a year, I'm going to give you the membership for free. But if you have the money and you don't want to spend $30 a year to learn unlimited skills, well, you're not going to go very far in life. So anyways, at the Skills Exchange Network, you can find tons of people who are going to teach you. Now, why would these people teach you skills? Because when they teach you in a Zoom session, they can record the video, and so they can sell the recording later on. So that's their incentive. So anyways, my point here is that skills, you have to practice. You have to practice. You have to practice. You have to practice again and again and again and again. If there's one success secret that I want to share with people, whether it's my success at school or anywhere else, you gotta practice every freaking day. If you don't practice every day, you're not serious. You're not serious about the skill. Like I do live streaming like several times per day. I practice teaching all the time because teaching is my vocation. So you gotta practice. Okay. Um, so for skills, I'm gonna recommend a lot of books. Um, for the second level, I have tons of books to recommend to you for the second level, so that you can perform and you can make money. So here, you may have the skills, but like I said, you have to demonstrate, and also like you have to be able to sell. what is the point of having skills when you're not able to convince people to use your skill? Like even somebody like Bruce Lee, like he had to sell his kung fu before he got into the Hollywood, and after that he went to Hong Kong. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you have to be able to sell. Fortunately, selling is not difficult. I'm going to teach you that in 5 steps. After you master the 5 steps of selling, you're going to be able to sell anything to anyone, provided they have a need for your uh, whatever you're selling and they have a budget for it. So selling is not difficult. It's just 5 steps. I'm gonna recommend books so you learn how to sell, you learn how to do consulting, you learn how to demonstrate, and then I'm gonna suggest books so that you learn how to manage your finances, how to use Excel to track your money, your spending, your income, and so on and so forth. And finally, I'm going to recommend books on investing. Like, what books should you read in order to become a good investor? And of course, like I said before, the first book you should read is The Art of Interpreting Financial Statements. If you want to become an investor, you don't have to, but if you want to become a good investor, there's no way around that. I haven't found a better book than Mary Buffett's The Art of Interpreting Financial Statements. Now, it's not the end all be all, because even if you're literate, even if you can decode every line in a financial statement, you still have to make judgment, right? You still have to learn, like, what is value investing? Well, there's tons of books about that. um, I remember my brother had to read like 50 books before he became financially free. So that's the level of seriousness. If you're a serious investor, well, maybe you don't have to read 50 books. That's a bit much, but you have to read like 5 or 10 books on finance to understand what business is, and then you can invest. So I'm gonna suggest tons of books that you can learn. But my point, guys, my point in this free webinar, and I hope you realize that this is a very valuable webinar. It's gonna become a video course that I'm gonna sell for $100. I hope you understand that money is just a game. It's a freaking game. Like, if you're stressed because you don't have enough money, because you're into debt, and at the end of every month you're stressing yourself, you're destroying your health because of anxiety, because of money, don't, like, please don't. Money is just a game. It's just a video game. It's like the game Monopoly. There are rules to the game. There are skills and capabilities. There are resources that you can pick up. It's just a video game. Isn't it ridiculous that hundreds of millions of people all over the world, they're stressed, and this damages their health, of course. They're stressed about money when money is just a video game that you can play and that you can enjoy playing. That's what I want to teach you. Now, I'm not saying that when you go through my 4 levels, and I'm going to have ebooks, textbooks, I'm going to have web applications, I'm going to have newsletters, I'm going to have courses, video courses, I'm going to have tons of products to teach you how to play these 4 levels. Now, I'm not promising you're going to become a millionaire, but what I promise you is that you will have what I value the most, which is my freedom. I don't have to show up anywhere on Monday morning to work for some other guy, to work to enrich business owners or shareholders. I have freedom. That's my main goal in life. My main goal, I already achieved that goal. I don't have to work for anybody for the rest of my life. I'm too smart. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant. I'm too smart because I figured out that money is a game, and I'm willing to teach you how you can play the money game to win. I'm not an arrogant kind of prick who's gonna, shove in people's face, hey, I make $80 an hour, I'm better than you. No, I'm not better than anyone. My IQ is normal. Okay, maybe my IQ is a little bit. You got to give me that. My IQ is a little bit above the average because I've read over 1,000 business books. Okay, come on. But I'm really like you. I want to share with you also, um, show my vulnerable side. I have to share with you, I haven't been always financially free. Like, I remember in 2010, and I look back now, I'm laughing, but at the time I was not laughing, I guarantee you. 2010, after I failed a business on a women training, I had exactly like $6.83. I remember that number because I saw in my bank. Oh my God, Peter, what have you done? Like, you know, you have $6.83. And I remember I was in downtown, standing in front of Burger King, and I was hungry. Right? I'm looking at the menu and I'm thinking, what can I afford? And I remember I saw this kid burger, I think at the time it was $5 or something. I said, "Oh my God, I just have enough money in the bank for a kid burger." The kid burger is so small, it's like you're not gonna be filled up. Uh, but I bought the kid burger, and I said to my cat, "Okay, Peter, you got to get your shit together." And guess what? 16 years, what? Yeah, 16 years later. Yeah, 16 years later, I'm totally free. I'm making a lot of money right now. I have so many ways to make money. But like I said, I started from $6.83. I'm sharing this with you, um, because just to show you that I was not born into wealth. I receive a McGill education, but like I said, it's worth nothing. Yeah, I paid $17,000. Big mistake. I could have learned all of that from reading business books. I made so many mistakes, but the good news is that I'm a great teacher. I'm a dedicated teacher, and so in through these master your money game, I want to share with you everything that I know, including my stupid mistakes, because they may be stupid. One time I got into credit card debt too. That's very stupid because you pay 24%. Uh, but hey, it's like they're saying every master was once a disaster. I was a disaster once, and I don't care about my ego. I'm going to share with you my mistakes, but also my best practices and all the courses that I've developed, 7 college level courses. I'm going to share everything with you because I want you to become financially free. I find that it's stupid. It's completely stupid for people to stress themselves because of money. I have friends who are stressed because of money. Don't. Money is just a game. If you're stressed about money, it's because you don't know the game. And I'm going to teach you the game. And the game is really simple. It's just 4 levels: skills, performance, savings, investing. That's it. Now, some people might be at the third level. They save a lot of money, but they don't know how to invest. No problem. You can learn anything. There's YouTube University. There's my Skills Exchange Network. You can learn anything so that you can become an investor. People, unfortunately, who assume that they're going to have to work for the rest of their lives, well, they're stuck at level 2 because they don't have the self control to manage their emotions, and therefore they don't have any savings. So, therefore, they're going to have to work for the rest of their lives. Okay, that's not a good place to be, because whether you believe in reincarnation or not, guess what? This is the only life you've got. Okay, like in my opinion, and this is a radical opinion, but every day, every hour that I have to work, it's an hour I'm not enjoying life. That's it. That it's a very radical view, but most people, I think, they don't think like that. They think, well, uh, what am I going to do with my free time? I have to work. That's how I derive my identity. But they're saying that because they have never tasted freedom. I guarantee you that once you're financially free and you don't have to work anymore, you're never going to go back to a job. There's no way I'm going to go back to a job. Now, I love teaching. I might teach just for fun, for social purposes. You meet people, you make friends, but I'm never going to go back to a corporate job. I haven't had a corporate job in the last 26 years. I'm not saying this to brag, but just to tell you, you don't know what you're missing. You might be working hard right now. Oh, I'm an accountant. People rely on me. Bullshit. If you win the lottery tomorrow, you would stop your accounting job. So don't bullshit yourself. I'm being very frank because, I tell people, look, if you want to make money, I can teach you. If money is not interesting for you, if you think that money is bad, rich people are corrupt, you have the wrong belief system. Good luck to you, but I cannot help you. You have to love money. Why? Because let me just put it here, because most people don't understand what money really is. Money is the one thing that gets you all the other things on this planet. So I hope that people realize that this is the importance of money. Money is the one thing that gets you all the other things on this planet. Now, notice that I say things, I don't say people, right? You cannot buy friendship, you cannot buy love, real love, with money. You cannot buy health with money. You cannot buy a lot of valuable stuff, but most of the other things on this planet, it doesn't matter which country you go to, we live on an economic planet. You have to show your credit card. A lot of young people don't understand that if you want to buy something at the store, you gotta show your TikTok, your Instagram, and pay with the likes. You gotta say to the cashier, "Hey, I have like 1,000 likes. Can I give you one like for that beer?" No, you can't. You gotta pay with cash, right? So many young people, not even young people, old people, or not so young people, they're wasting time on social media. To me, like social media is a black hole. So when I say that the game of making money is simple, it's simple if there was no social media, right? Like, this is what my father did, become a millionaire in his 30s. This so many people do before the arrival of the internet. But now that the internet here is here, and social media and the smartphone and the stupid TikTok, really, really stupid, people are distracted. So as you can see, 4 levels to the game. This is very easy. A teenager can do this. But what is hard, and I'm going to end on that note because I got to go for supper. What is hard is that there is so much distraction. And you know what? In my book, distraction is destruction of wealth, destruction of your money. People are distracted because the TikTok algorithm, the YouTube algorithm is so good. It's so good that it's always going to show, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, it's going to show a video that will grab your attention. And once your attention is grabbed, you're not going to focus on learning new skills. You're just going to waste time, and you're not going to learn new skills. You're not going to perform. You're not going to save money. You're not going to invest. This is the enemy. So in many ways, the internet is the enemy. The enemy, if you don't know how to use the internet. And fortunately, I'm going to talk more about this in the future live stream. Fortunately, you can use the internet for good, for improving your financial situation, your net worth. The key is really to create content and not consume. You can still consume content. I mean, I consume a lot of content, but let's say I create 1 minute of content, like what I'm doing right now. I'm not watching some stupid TikTok video, right? For every minute of content creation, maybe I can consume 1 minute, or let's say 1 hour. So that's my reward. If I want to consume 1 hour of internet content, I have to create. But you know what? The majority of people, the ratio is zero minutes of creation. And so let's say 0 hours. And every day or every week, they probably spend like 15 hours per week. That's a recipe for losers. Okay, like I don't want to be like um not charitable, but most people are just wasting time on Facebook. They're not using that time to create useful content. When you're posting pictures of your vacation, okay, that's cute. Okay, yeah, you kiss your boyfriend, you kiss your girlfriend, that's cute. But it's not useful. It's not useful content. Nobody wants to know what you ate for breakfast. Nobody wants to see pictures of your cute cat. You got to create something that is useful. And here I'm gonna do a shout out to a former student and friend, Angelina. She's talking about Bitcoin investment. She's talking about, you know, uh, she mentioned the Sharpe ratio. Like, I didn't even know about that Sharpe ratio. So I learned from her. So there are people like Angelina, there's people like Susan who's sharing stuff about health. I mean, these two ladies, they're sharing valuable information on their Facebook timeline. And I really appreciate that. And so for them, they're creating useful content. They're not doing like 99.9% of people on social media. They're just consuming. They're not creating anything useful, and that has to change. Now, like I said, do not listen to what I'm saying here. If you're already rich, if you're already financially free, maybe I can learn from you. But if you have to work for a living, if you have to stress yourself at work, dude, ladies, please, there is a method to the madness. You can actually, learn the video game called money, and you can proceed from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4. And when you're at level 4, it's like a freaking game, but it's not like the casino. You're not gambling, you're investing, consciously investing, and you're getting better and better. And that's when money becomes like a really enjoyable game. You never stress yourself, and you know exactly what you're doing. It's like Charlie Munger. He said something that I memorized forever. He said, it's amazing how little you have to do when you know what you're doing. Okay, it's amazing how little you have to do when you know what you're doing. So what the late Charlie Munger, who was the business partner of Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway, what he's saying is that you don't have to do much to become wealthy, but you have to do the right things. You have to have the right knowledge and do the right things. And in my book, the right things, very simple: learn new skills, perform and demonstrate your skill, save money, don't spend money. Like, be cheap if you have to. I have a brother, he's very cheap. Congratulations. Being cheap is good because you're saving your money. You're not paying for some brand, no, what is a brand? A brand is, you're paying for a brand when you're psychologically insecure. And also you learn how to invest. It's a very easy game. Anyways, guys, that's the live stream I have for you. I'm putting a lot of love and a lot of dedication because I've made so many mistakes in my life when it comes to business and money making. I don't want anyone on this planet to make the same mistake. So I guarantee you, everything I'm going to teach you is going to be translated into French, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. I want everyone on this planet to learn what I have learned at great cost. And so I really, really am dedicated to helping you guys to become financially free. I don't want anyone to work on this planet. Work is a four-letter word. Now, of course, if you enjoy your work, I don't know, because it gives you status. Let's say you're a surgeon. Of course, keep on doing your work. You help people. If you're a nurse and you're taking care of old people, of course. If you're a physiotherapist, of course, keep on doing your work. But you know what? You can take a vacation anytime. You can stop anytime because you're not dependent on the employer. What I really hate is being dependent on somebody else for my future, my kids' future. Well, I don't have kids yet, but I don't want to depend on anyone. I want to be free. I want to have freedom. I want to own my time. What is the point of owning like stock and real estate when you don't even own your time? That, to me, that's crazy. Freedom, own your time, because life is short. And unfortunately, and I've seen that with my friends who died in their 50s, unfortunately, life tends to get interrupted much sooner than you think. You think you're going to live till you're 80. I don't think so. I'm not even sure I'm going to live until I'm 70. Anything could happen to me, right? So I want to have the freedom. I want to own my time. I don't want to report to anybody. Okay. And you can do the same. You can achieve my level of success, very small level. I'm not that rich, but I own my time. That's what matters to me. Um, and so, I look forward to talking to you and answering all your questions and helping you on this journey, this exciting journey where, you can become financially free. And when you become an investor, these days you can use AI to create products and companies. You can make so much money. The sky's the limit. But you got to understand this is the structure of the game. It doesn't matter how AI develops. It doesn't matter whether Chinese companies create AI systems that are better than the US. It doesn't matter who wins the AI race. This is not going to change. You're always going to need to have skills. Always going to need to demonstrate your skill or your products. You're always going to need to save money, and you're always going to need to invest in capitalism because that's the system we live in. So anyways, guys, that's what I want to share with you. I'm going to for supper now, but yeah, it's been fun. And